Hey guys, Alan Watson here at Golf Plus in Dothan. We're going to do a new video today talking about some basic club repair techniques. I'm going to show you 3 different basic club repairs. So stay tuned and let's see what we've got. Today we've got a ferrule that's come loose from the adapter, and this is really common because of today's adapter tips that we have for all the different brands. Eventually these things sometimes break loose, the glue comes loose, so we're going to re-epoxy this. We're going to show you how to do that today. Another repair we've got today is a basic extension. We've got a driver here, the customer wants it a little bit longer, so we've got our extension that's going to go right into the butt end of that, so we'll show you how to do that as well. And then lastly, we're going to reshaft this Titleist wedge. We had a customer that had a bent or broken shaft, so we're going to put a new shaft in there. So 3 repairs today. All right, so for any basic club repair, we're going to need a few tools. We're going to need a few things. Of course, we're going to need some 2-part epoxy. I've got a little popsicle stick to stir with. You could even use a golf tee, whatever you want to do there. We've got some of our naphtha that we use for installing grips. This will be used for wiping off excess material. We can use some little wipes like this, a towel, whatever. We're going to need that as well. We're also going to need our vise and vice clamp for different repairs, especially like cleaning out heads and things like that. We're going to need a drill, some drill bits, reamers, brushes, etc. Over here we've got our shaft puller. We're going to need a shaft puller when we're taking things apart, and with that we'll need our torch and our heat gun when we're using graphite shafts. So another tool we're going to use in just a second is going to be our belt sander, and then if we were cutting shafts, we have a shaft cutter as well. We're not going to be cutting anything today. Actually, we will be, because we're going to cut that extension once we get that done. All right, so we're adding our 2-part epoxy. I've already put the black portion down, and now I'm doing the clear or sort of opaque, maybe almost yellow portion, doesn't really matter. Anyway, this is a tour set epoxy. We're trying to get obviously equal amounts. Some people measure them with little measuring cups and gram weight scales and all that. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I just do it by eye, and to be honest with you, that usually works. So we're going to mix up our glue nice and good. First one we're going to do is this ferrule that's come a little bit loose. We're going to add just a little bit of our epoxy right into that groove where the ferrule meets the adapter. I could use a rag to smooth it in or whatever. I just use the little popsicle stick for now. Oop. And then I'm just going to push it up against the piece there, and so now they've seated. I just kind of had to, I used the puller, but I kind of used it as a push. I'm going to wipe off my excess glue. Clean it up with a little bit of solvent. And I'm going to give it one more push just to make sure it's seated nice and firm. There we go. That looks a little better. Now we're good. The next repair that we're going to do is our extension. We're going to make sure that our extension fits nice and snug. That's the first thing. And then we're going to just roll on a light amount of the epoxy onto the actual extension. I like to use the edge of a golf ball box because I can kind of roll it on there and I get a nice thin coverage. And then I'm going to put some epoxy down inside the shaft, and I'm going to give it kind of a swirling motion, either with the stick or just turning the club in my hand. And that's going to get that epoxy down in there as well. And then as I install it, I'm also going to give it a twist, and then I'm going to tamp it just to make sure it seats on there properly. And then just like we did with the ferrule, we're going to wipe off the excess epoxy and give it a cleanup. And then we're going to let that dry, and then we'll cut it to length and grip it, and I'll show you that as well in just a minute. So we've got our extension installed into this used driver, and we want to cut it to the proper length. So we're going to use our shaft ruler here, our club ruler, and we're going to set it at the proper playing angle, and then we're trying to get 45 inches for this driver. So I'm going to mark it just 1/8 below that, because the grip cap will cover up the rest of that. So I've got my safety goggles, and I'm going to test it, make sure I'm cutting right where I want to cut. I'm going to cut just on the outside of my line to make sure I have some extra room in case. All right, we had to go back to our belt sander for some cleanup, and then we'll clean off the inside here with a little knife because there's some gunk in the end of the shaft. And we'll finish that with just a little bit of sandpaper just to keep any rough edges away from there so that the grip doesn't get torn up. We've got our extension installed and we've got it cut to the proper length. Some extensions are going to be the exact same diameter as the shaft and some are not. In this particular case, this one's just a hair smaller than the diameter. So I'm going to use some masking tape and I'm going to build up that so that we have a nice even size for that grip to go on. All right, so that should be more correct there. Just tuck in all the extra. And then just like we did in our grip video, it's very simple, obviously. We're just going to get our grip tape on. We already have our grip. It's a Golf Pride multi-compound. We've got our solvent and our rag. We've got our catch pan and of course our vise. We didn't need the hook blade because the grip was already gone, but we did have all of our tools here and ready. And we're going to install the grip, and then this repair will be done. There we go, just that easy. For the reglue on this wedge today, what we've got is a clean pulled shaft, so it's a brand new wedge shaft that was taken out of another wedge that we needed to put a custom shaft into. So this is already the right spec, right length, everything. So we'll get into cutting shafts and tipping and all that kind of business later, but right now for this one, this is going to be a pretty simple repair. So we've got the right shaft, we've got the head, we just need to do some cleanup work and then glue those together. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to use the belt sander, clean up all the old epoxy off the shaft. So one thing I might add to the tool list earlier would be safety equipment. Obviously, we want to wear safety glasses when you're working with a sander, when you're working with a cutter, or any kind of tool that might cause metal to fly up in your eyes or, you know, shards of whatnot. So gonna put my safety glasses on here as I go to clean up this head. So first thing I'm gonna do is use my Dremel, kind of get inside there and get all that nasty out of there. If holding the club in your hand makes you a little nervous, you can always just secure it into a bench vise. That's a great way to do it, especially if you're switching to a drill. You may not want to drill into your hand. All right. So we've used the Dremel to get a lot of the loose stuff out of there. We've used a drill bit. Now we've got reamers. Reamers are perfectly cut size bits that will go in and clean off all the debris out of the wall there. And then of course my last step is going to be a wire brush. I want to really shoot all that stuff out of there. So what I'll do is just get a little bit of solvent into the head and then my wire brush. All right, now that head is sparkling clean inside and ready to accept a new shaft. When we're putting clubs back together, a lot of times we would have to set a ferrule, make sure we've got the right one. Because this was a clean pull, my ferrule's still perfect, so I'm not gonna have to do anything. Everything's gonna come together just perfect like that. So all I've got to do, now that I've cleaned up the shaft tip and cleaned up the head, is add some epoxy inside the head. And again, I'm going to use that swirl technique like I did with the extension. I'm going to use my roll technique here to roll that glue onto the tip. And then I'm going to twist them together like so. And they're going to seat perfectly because this was made for that one. Going to clean up all my excess epoxy. And then I'm going to set the shaft at the proper alignment. So whether it's an alignment sticker, whether it's an alignment mark, obviously we always want to get that, you know, just to keep it looking professional and clean. So Get that lined up perfectly down the back and set it in our drying rack, and we're good to go. Today I showed you 3 simple repairs. We did a shaft reglue on a wedge, we did a ferrule fix on a adapter hybrid, and we did an extension cut to length and a grip on a used club here. Club repair is really not that hard as long as you have the right tools, follow the right steps, and of course safety first. Come see us here at Golf Plus in Dothan if you're in town. If you need any basic repair work done or anything complex as well, we've got over 20 years of experience doing that and over 30 years in business. We'd love to see you.